Hey, I'm going to try to show you just a few tips and tricks on how I made the e-learning lessons for the 10-day closure that we had. And so this is a template that's been modified from Anderson School District 5. They gave us permission to use it. And so I just want to kind of take you through. What I really like about it is that it is all encompassing. Everything that you need is in this one document. And there are hyperlinks that take you from page to page and kind of jump you around. So when you first look at it, it's very overwhelming. But I think that the parents and the students have really enjoyed it, and the ease of use. They've not had a whole lot of issues with it. So the first thing I want to say is if you're going to create your lessons in Google Slide, please do not go into the file and page setup and change it to be 8.5 by 11. If you're going to print out a Google Slide, then that's wonderful. But since our students are going to be working on their Chromebooks, which are shaped like a rectangle this way, you want to make sure you keep it this way as opposed to turning it because it just makes it so much harder for them to see. All right, so taking you through this document. I would definitely change up this first page. You need the same information. However, they've seen this now 3 times with our mock day, with our when we almost had an e-learning day, and then with what just went home. So if you're going to go to file and make a copy of this document, just I would change this up, change the Bitmoji, change it a little bit. So these directions I put in there for the teachers, you could take that out. You could actually put in directions for students if you just wanted to kind of explain this a little further. The student help page shows them just some shortcuts they can use, also how to take a screenshot. So students could, within other programs, like if you link them out to something, they could take a screenshot and embed it in this document as well. We tried to give students choice this activity. And so when you look, and I'll show it, there are activities that require the internet access and then ones that do not require internet access. So I did put in this slide too for just some different things that students can do if they are flying through the work or if they want to be on their Chromebook later when they've done all their work. There are just some different resources that students can go to just to explore. All right, so this is the main screen. Everything, when they finish activities, it always takes them back to this screen. And so these are the 4 subjects that students have to complete work in. And then the brain break are just different activities they could do, kind of like related arts. There's some music, some movement, and some art sites that students can go to. But if they click on ELA, it's going to link them to the ELA slide. Now, the ELA slide has 10 days worth of activities, and every day students can go in and they can choose one of these activities to do. Again, this is not how you have to do it, but I just love to give students choices as long as they're practicing what it is I want them to work on, then that is wonderful. You could have a choice board where you just have 10 different lessons and students have to complete those, or 17, I guess, goodness, lessons that they would have to complete before coming back to school. But this is how I did this. Okay, so each day iReady is an option because iReady is going to work with them with where they are right now. You could also go in and you could assign some lessons too for your students to complete. I'm going to show you how I put in these activities that do not require the internet access, but once I write something in, I hyperlink it to that page. So if I'm going to do the using context clues, students would just click on it. It would take them to the slide where that begins. And then they click on these keep going as they read through that. I added in these little bars that can be resized as needed. And that seems like a lot of work, but really after I created the first ones, I just copied and pasted them to the slides that they needed to go to. I also have learned that students, anytime there's a box to fill out, students are more likely to complete it. So if you are doing a fill in the blank or something where you want kids to actually put in an answer, I would insert a text box there. So they're going to keep going. And this is all pulled from iReady. So they need to circle their answers. So again, they just pull this circle over to whatever their answer is. And then whenever they're finished with this activity, it tells them to go home. So they're going to go back to this slide and they have now finished that ELA activity. One thing that I think was kind of confusing and I wish I had done differently is I asked them to, if this is the activity that you're going to do, you click the bullet once and then you click the bullet again so that only it is highlighted, and then you can right click and change that to a check mark. I thought that would make it easier for you teachers to be able to tell what they did. What I would do if I were you is instead of having them do that, I would have them highlight, because then you know which activities very quickly they decided to do, and that will help you when it comes to figuring out of all these activities, what did they do so that they can get credit. And don't forget that you don't have to wait for all of your students to come back to start counting some of this work. Now, you can't put it into PowerSchool yet, but you could have a spreadsheet and you could mark off the days that different students have done, or whatever system works for you. It could even be a checklist on a piece of paper that you're going through and saying, okay, these students did day one, day two, day three, because then when they come back, you'll have less work to do, because hopefully you'll only have the final lessons that maybe you haven't had a chance to check, and then those few students that don't have internet, so you haven't been able to access what they've done. But what's lovely about this is because you're putting it through Google Classroom, you're able to go in, open up their actual document, and see, okay, what is it that they've done? And so some of these would have lessons that you can see and you can check the work that they've done, and you can provide that feedback if you need to. Maybe they didn't do it correctly, or you can tell they're rushing through it, not really trying. So you could give them that immediate feedback. For iReady, you could just log into iReady and see which lessons have been done. And then this is an example, the read and respond, of something that can be online or offline. So when I gave you guys the survey the other day, one thing that a few of you said was, well, I'm not going to offer any online activities if all of my students can't do it. But I really urge you to differentiate your lessons. So yes, you're going to have a small number of students that have to do all of their work only on the Chromebook, but you also have a large number of your students where you can pull in these outside resources and give them opportunities to explore and create more than just what's on their Chromebook. So I do encourage you to do that. I know that it's more work, but if you need help, I'm here to help you, and I do not mind at all helping you. So anyway, let me come back to this. Okay, so this activity, the reason it's online or offline is because I was able to take some screenshots of the actual article and put it in here. So if you have the internet, you can click here to view it on the internet. And so I'll go ahead and open that just so you can see what that looks like. And one thing too I love about having everything in one Google slide or one Google Doc is that it always opens up in a new tab. So when students are done, all they have to do is exit here and it'll take them right back to what they were working on. All right, so here's the article that students can read. So what I like about these online resources, again, not all of your students will be able to have this, but those students that do have internet would have this ability. They can go in and they can do text to speech, and it will actually read the article to them, which is awesome. That's something that we can provide our students that might need that extra help. So I've read this article. Okay, so again, this is what the students who do not have internet could read. And if they need to, they could go into present mode, and that's going to make it be just a little bit larger for them. But if they go into present mode, it just makes it easier for them to see, and they can just hit escape to go out of present mode so that they can actually go in and write the document. You don't want the Google slide to be completely in present mode. Otherwise, whenever it's time for them to do the work, they wouldn't be able to put in the work. All right, so still reading the article. Here is your question, and this is where the students answer. So after they read the article, they would do this graphing or this mapping activity, and then they would go home. So, and I always have it coming back to here. I don't know that that's the best. In the future, I would probably always have it linked back to the ELA activities, because then they can come in and they can highlight which one they did. Okay. So I just did that for 10 days. You guys would have to do 17 days. Again, you could have just a list of 17 activities you can do offline, and they can go in and choose the order, whichever one they want to do. I do want to show you third grade because theirs looks a little bit different. Instead of doing it by subject, they went in and had day one, day two, day three. So each of these would link you to what is expected of you to do that day. And then every subject for each day is in between each day. So I don't know if this was easier for third grade for 3rd grade students because then they could just go up and down here. I do like um, giving students a little bit more choice. Because, so this is an example of where everything that they can do pretty much is just in this one document and it doesn't link out to anything else. So I would encourage you to try to find some resources where maybe you can do both. And I'm going to show you, because I'm going to start from scratch, I'm going to show you how to actually create this. I'm still just kind of taking you through your different options. So there's nothing wrong with this. I do like how everything is in each day. So I just think that makes it a little easier for students to do. But the beautiful thing about e-learning and the way we have this set up is students could, if they wanted to, go ahead and knock out science, go ahead and knock out social studies, and they could do all of their lessons in whatever order really they want to. The idea is just that they have done that work before they come back to school. And so it gives students that freedom to go whichever direction they want. Okay, so let's say that you do like this and you want to use this activity. I'm going to undo all the changes that I've made. What you can do, and I'll provide this link on my website, but what you would do is you would come up to File and you would make a copy of it. And I'm going to do the entire presentation. Now remember, this is a very large file in that it's not large size-wise, but it's large in that it has a lot of slides. So I'm going to name this my 17-day e-lessons for 4th grade. Okay, and then just make sure you know where you're saving it so you can find it later. All right, so now what you would need to do would be to come down to under ideas, and I'm going to just select the 12th slide, and I'm going to scroll all the way down to the last slide. All right, so once I get to the end, I'm going to hold Shift and click the last slide, and then I'm just going to hit Delete on my keyboard. Now, if you did not use if you're a 4th grade teacher and you did not use this document last time, then you could certainly use it again. So you may not want to delete everything. You may want to go through and figure out what it is you can keep and what you might need to get rid of. So now all of my options here have changed. And so you might go ahead and just delete, but like some of these I might want to keep the same. So I'm just going to go to each of these first ones, triple click to select the whole thing, and then hit delete. All right, so 1, 2, 3, delete. Okay, so I'm not going to do all of this because I don't want to bore you, but that is how you would go through and change that. So now I want to show you just how you would add some different resources or add some different lessons. So I'm going to come here to the very last one and just hit enter on my keyboard. Now, one thing that I've noticed is it always brings in the formatting from the slide before. So if you go ahead and right click and apply a layout that doesn't have anything on it, so just a blank one, then you won't have to go in and delete those text boxes. That may not bother you, but the text boxes bother me because I'd rather put them where I want them to be. All right, so now if I come down and hit enter a few more times, you'll notice it doesn't have anything for me to delete. All right, so let's come and I'm going to do, let's see, our ELA lesson first. And so I wanted to show you how I was able to bring in some different iReady activities. And so what you would do is you would go to whatever site it is that you want to use, or whatever PDF or Word document or wherever you have these problems, and you open it up. And then since this is a PDF document, you can zoom in and out. The closer you are, the clearer it's going to be. And then I just use the snipping tool on my desktop. So if you don't have it showing down here, you just come over here to your search bar and start typing in snip. And then you can actually right click on this and you can pin to your taskbar. I leave my snipping tool down here at the bottom all the time. So I'm going to hit the scissors, click new. It's going to gray out my screen. So I'm going to select just the part that I want, keeping in mind that the student's screen is the 16:9 ratio. So you want to keep it in landscape mode. All right, so I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to go to my document and I'm just going to paste it in here. Okay, and I like to try to keep over here clean so that I can use that next slide or stop and go back. Okay, and I guess I will go ahead and show you how to make that. You could just open up one of my documents and copy it, but all I did was I inserted a shape, and the shape was an arrow. Sorry, the shape was an arrow. And then I double click in there and I say next slide, and then I made it green just so, green means go. All right, and then to hyperlink something, you select it, and then you can click on this little link. I like to use the shortcut Control K. I know that not a lot of people are used to using shortcuts, but since you're going to be hyperlinking all over this document, learning that shortcut Control K can save you a lot of time. All right, so this is where you would paste a link to take you outside of this resource, but if you click on slides in this presentation, next slide is the first option. So I'm going to apply that. And you can always test it out if you want to. I like to double click in there and you can change the font. And take your time to make this one look good, because once you have this one made, you'll be able to just copy and paste it throughout the document. All right, so I'm going to go to the next slide, go back to iReady, scroll up a little bit, take a snipping tool. Now this one is going to be a little different because this one requires students to actually answer. So I'm going to right click and copy that, go back to my document, paste it in. Again, shortcut Control C, Control V really will save you some time. So if there's a section, like I was saying, where you would want kids to enter answers, you can actually come up here and get a shape, or you can add a text box. You can do it either way. I like for the if I'm going to use a text box, I do like for it to have a little bit of color around it, just so it looks like a box that kids know they're supposed to fill out. And you could even double click in there and say enter answer or type answer or something like that. Enter text, I don't know, just something so your kids know that they need to go in and do that. And once you have the first one made, you can just copy and paste that. Lots of copying and pasting to save you some time. And then one more. That right down there. All right, now one thing that kind of got me with the iReady that I was using is that you have to read the directions. It says circle the context clues that help you understand the meaning of the underlined word. Write the meaning of the underlined word. So if you want your students to be able to circle, the way I did that was I entered a shape or inserted a shape and tried not to make it too big, but also not too small. I gave it a better color than that. So if I click on, let's say, green. Now the problem is if they put this over there, so let's say rockets is your answer and they need to resize it, that's going to cover up what it is they're trying to circle. So I just went to the color tool and went to custom. And so now it's going to be green, but I can change that transparency so we can actually see words through it. Okay, so I'm going to check that and just make sure we can see the words through it. Yes. And then they can resize it as needed. And so let me move that back. Now that I have this the way I want it, I just go ahead and paste a few of them in there. And then I also put directions. Let's see, I put in a shape. And again, you could go ahead and, I don't want that to be transparent though. You could go ahead and create this and then copy and paste it. Use the circles below to circle. All right, I'm struggling with my words. Use the shapes below to circle the context clues. Resize as needed. So if there's a longer context clue, then they might need to stretch it out. But gave them some directions, and then I also added, you don't have to do this, but I added an arrow that just kind of pointed to what it was I wanted them to use. And then you can use the arrows on your keypad to move things around. And then you can also hit Control Shift up or down to move it. Let me move it over to move it either to the front or to the back. So I want that to be behind it so it's not covering up my words. Okay, so now that I have this made, any slide where I need to, and iReady has a lot of them, any slide that I need students to circle or answer, I can just copy and paste this. I might have to change the wording here just a little bit, but to get all of that, you would just select down here and make sure you include everything. And it will put a circle around it. I can copy and paste that. Now just be careful because if you can look and see that the left side of my box is actually including that over the words over there. I don't want that. I can hold Control and select that, and it gets rid of it. So just some tips on how you can make that a little more interactive and make it easier and obvious for your students to put in their answers. So that was from iReady. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that. They have these packets where you can have them like this could be my day 2, my independent practice. I guess I will show you that real quick just so you can see it. So for me, I found it easier to go ahead and do all of one subject, all of my options for one subject, and group them that way. But remember, you could definitely group it the way that 3rd grade did too, where you have all of one day, all of day 2, all of day 3. All right, so it says use context clues to figure out the meaning of each underlined word. So even though it doesn't tell them to do this, I would go ahead and copy this and paste it so that they can use that there. And then they need to answer the questions on the next page. So I'm going to copy this arrow so I don't have to do that again. And then come here, scroll down, take a snip, copy that, put it there. Now, they need to be able to answer. So I'm going to come and I'm going to copy this again. And this is an example of where you might change what it says. Use the shapes below to circle, not the context clues, but circle your answer. And then resize as needed. And then 1, 2, yeah, they only need 4. So I'm going to make sure I only have 4 there. Okay, so the other thing that we need to add is the stop and go back. So I'm going to come here. And again, I could just come to this document and I could change, like copy and paste what I have, but I want to show you how to make it from scratch. So I can insert a shape. Actually, I went and Googled Pixabay is my favorite place to go search for images because they are free for commercial use and private use. Like I can use any of these images and I don't have to cite them. So I'm going to put in a stop sign. Let's see if anything comes up for that. All right, so here's a stop. Again, I can just copy this image, paste it in, resize it. All right, and then I think I put in a little text box that said something along the lines of, you have completed today's lesson. Please go back to see. Please go mark this lesson as done. That's not really the best thing. I don't know if that's very clear, but you could say something like that. I'm trying to make this take up the least amount of room as possible. So this is where I was saying I always had it go back to, sorry, I'm just changing the size a little bit. I always have them go back and mark. Okay. I always have it go back to that subjects page, but I'm going to hit Control K and I'm going to tell it to go back to the ELA slide. So you might have to look over here to see which slide it is. And I'm just taking my 2 fingers and scrolling up and down. So I want it to go back to slide 8. So I'm going to apply that. All right, so I'm going to hit Control K, slide 8. So if you do this, it does mean that you would have to change this up. So all of my ELA stop signs could be the same, but since I'm sending it back to ELA, then I would have to make sure that I also do that for, I'll send it back to math, send it back to science after all of those lessons. I do think that's a good idea though, even though it's more work in the front end, because it's going to remind students to go mark that they did it. So I'm going to hyperlink both of these. That way they can click either one, either the stop sign, or they can click these words, and that's going to take them back to slide 8. And so I didn't change the name of this activity, and I should have, just to make it so you could see it from scratch. But I'm going to delete this and pretend like I did something different. All right, so my first activity that does not require the internet is called using context clues. And then what I did was triple click that, Control K or insert hyperlink, and I want this to go to page 12 because that's my using context clues. So it's kind of like a maze initially, trying to make sure all of these link to the right thing. But you can click on it without following the link to see exactly where it's leading. So that is correct. Now my second lesson is independent practice. So I might come back here to my second day, delete the old one, and so do independent practice. Triple click. Now this time it's going to be page 14 is where that starts. So I'm going to insert that link and tell it to go to page 14. Okay, so again, I have options of what students can do, but then I also have, if they do not have internet, I have what they can do over here on the left. So I'm just going to show you a few more resources and how you might actually embed those into your document. So I'm going to leave ELA for a little while. I'm going to just hit enter a few times at the end of my slides to bring in some new ones. All right, so some good resources. This is an example of one. It's called Wonderopolis. And what I love about Wonderopolis is it has articles, it has videos, it has vocabulary. So it just has a lot of different tools that students can use. It also will read to the students if they need it to be read to them. So that's super helpful. So again, your few kids who don't have internet, this wouldn't benefit them, but it is going to be great for your students that have the internet. So what is weather like on other planets? I'm going to come back to my science. Or actually, I might consider this ELA, right? Because they're going to go and it's going to test their comprehension. So day 3 is going to be what is weather like on other planets? So read and respond. So even though I may have them going off to read the article, they still have to come back and respond in this document. So from this resource, let me find it. Okay. I can link straight to it, which is great, or I can come up here and click the print button. And it's going to open up the PDF like this. Now, I actually was able to just take and screenshot straight from here. So clicking on that little snipping tool, I came in and copied this. And this does take a little playing around with it to kind of format it. And so I would also put something like I did with the other one and insert either a text box or a shape that says have internet, read the article here. Oops, I did not spell either of those words right. Internet and article. So I'm going to go here, finish getting my screenshots. And this is so students who do not have the internet can still read the article. Just remember, I do want to link the article in here to make it easier, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Now notice how it's kind of fuzzy. You can change that. The bigger we have it here, the better that it's going to take a screenshot. So let me try to do that a little better. And I'm trying to take rectangular screenshots. That way, whenever I come in and paste it, it's about the size of the Google slide. All right, so I just keep going back to my article. All right, years. Okay, almost done. All right, so now I've got my article in there. I can come and hit the cancel button, and I can link this. So if you have the internet, you could just go straight here. And I did that so quickly by double clicking it, hitting Control K and Control V. So using those shortcuts can really help. Okay, so we might want to put directions. I don't know that I did this, but read the article. Let's see. Read the article and answer the comprehension question. Now, I'm not going to take long to make this look really pretty for you guys, but I would if I were making it for students, just so you know. Questions here. Okay, so now I'm going to come down to slide 20, and this is where I'm going to put the comprehension questions. And this is why I love Wonderopolis so much, because they have a "Did you get it? Test your knowledge" page. Okay, so I can actually print this as a PDF, and that's going to help me get at least 2 questions per page, which is really nice. All right. And I think I might be able to get the other questions on the same page. So let's see. Oh, it just has 3 questions. Yep, so that should be easy. All right. All right, so now I need a way for students to be able to answer their questions. So I'm going to go back to here where I had them do multiple choice questions before. I'm going to copy this. So select it, copy, and then I can come down here and I can paste. And just so you don't confuse them, there's only 3 questions. You could take away one of these. Oh, I did have more than one. Let's see. So I'm going to just keep deleting until I get to just my 3. There we go. All right, and so now all I have to do is go in and copy my next slide, next slide, next slide, and then I would need to copy in my end of lesson as well. All right, so I would come in to my next slide. So this is always going to take you to the next slide, no matter which page you're on. So that's why it's okay to copy this. There we go. And you want to make sure you don't put it too close to the bottom, because if you put it too close to the bottom, they wouldn't actually be able to click on the next slide button, because it would be under here under notes. All right, so now I need my stop. So I'm going to come and copy this. Excuse me. All right, so I'm going to click and drag up, copy that, and then put it down here. All right, so this is where you might have to kind of format it a little differently to make it fit where it's not in the way. But now I do need to change my where I'm having them go, because this is science. So I would want to make sure that I change this link to be the science page, which I can scroll up, is slide 9. So I would change this to be slide 9. Okay, so that is how you can take an article and put it in here, but still give students who have internet access the ability to come here. So I did want to go in so that they knew that even if they read the article online, they still need to come and answer the questions on slide 19. And so I'm going to select that and then tell them to go answer the questions on slide 19. Be very careful about, oh, if that happens, say I can't see slide 19, I'm going to hit Control minus, and then I'll be able to see what was kind of hidden. But I do want you to be careful about saying, read the article and answer the comprehension questions on slide 19. I would never say the slide number, because if you go in and change anything before it, if you take any slides out or add any slides, then it's not going to be slide 19 anymore. So just hyperlink it to the right spot, and then you should be fine. All right, so that is a Wonderopolis article. Going to show you just a few more resources you could use. So I'm done with Wonderopolis. Learn Zillion is wonderful, and it does have videos that you could have your kids watch. They are not downloadable, however, so you wouldn't be able to download these videos for your students who don't have internet. So that is one drawback. But they do have some really good lessons and some slideshows that you could use. And so this is an example of one of those. It's composing and decomposing numbers. So what you can do is come up here to the print button and just do it exactly the way that we did it before. You might need to mess around with the margins. So you could just say none. That way it's as large as possible and nothing's getting cut off. And then you could go through and you could take a screenshot of these rectangles and you could put those in your lesson. So that's an example of one you could use. I am curious, it said download lesson. Thought I saw that at the bottom. We'll see what happens if I download this. If it downloads as a PowerPoint, which it does look like it is, that might be even better, because you can actually take slides from other PowerPoints or from other slideshows. Let me enable this. All right, so if you download it, that is kind of a bummer. You'd have to Control V, Control Paste, and just go back and forth. But that is a little bit faster than you having to take the screenshot every time. So there's a positive. Let me see if it does each slide. Yeah. Okay. So Learn Zillion might be a good place for you to go get some slideshows that you can use. So I'm just resizing these to make them a little bit bigger. But just remember to give yourself that next button down at the bottom. And then you might embed or put in some notes down here, or put some notes as if you were teaching so that kids can read them. Okay, so that's how you would do Learn Zillion. You could also take a screenshot if that's what you want to do. Here's an example of an article. And so it's going to work similarly to the way that Wonderopolis did. You have a print button. What I don't like about this print button is that it actually it takes away all of the pictures, which is kind of lame. But you could go ahead and copy this and paste it in, and then you could go back to Britannica and put these pictures in as well. Another option is to just take screenshots of this. So again, this is wonderful, and you can take screenshots, you can download it. However, if you have students come straight to this, it can actually read to them. So putting it into a Google slideshow is wonderful and awesome for the students who don't have internet access, but please make sure you put a live link to here as well so students can go and use those embedded features. All right, I've already talked about iReady. They have ELA and math packets for grades K through 8. And then here's an example of taking from another Google resource. So if this is something maybe I want my students to do for comparing fraction problems, I can hold down Shift and select right here. I can copy those, right-click copy or Control-C, go to the end of my slide here and hit Control-V. And I'm going to tell it to keep the original styles. And sometimes this happens where you control and it doesn't work. So let me go try that again. Don't let that scare you if that happens initially. So I'm going to come in and copy this. Let's try that again. Right click. This probably has to do with me not having internet, but it should let you copy from another one. Just be careful. If this is something that was purchased from Teachers Pay Teachers and you purchased it, then 100% you can use it. But if it's something that somebody shared with you that they purchased from Teachers Pay Teachers or some other site, you really need to make sure you go and you give that teacher money if you're planning on using it with your students. All right, so I do want to show you how you might use something like this, because this is wonderful and the students can move it around, which is great, but it doesn't allow them to actually use the models. Okay, so the models are here and they're wonderful, but the students don't have the ability to actually use them. So what I would do if I were you would be to use the shape feature and make shapes that are the size of this. Um, Change the color like we talked about before, and then go to custom and just make it a little transparent. Okay, so now we have some movable blocks or movable, what am I trying to say? We can make it a little more interactive now. And so I can do the same thing down here. Only instead of green, I want it to be blue. So I'm going to hit custom, make it a little transparent. All right, and then just move these kind of off of the screen so kids know that they can go and get them. And then once you have these made, so like I'm going to hit control and select, I just have the top two. So I'm going to go to this page and I might have to resize them. But once I get them exactly how I want, then I'm going to say control C, control V, 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 and just make a few of them. Or you could make 8 and you can make 3, because then you're really testing if your students know it. But this is a way to make it a little more interactive for them and allow them to actually use the tool of the fraction bars. So this is how you could do interactive. Pixabay is a good place to get your pictures. When it comes to hyperlinking these, you might want to give it a title. So this right here is decomposing numbers. Didn't spell that right. Decomposing numbers. Okay, so I know that my first math lesson is going to be slide 20. So I'm going to go back to math. My first lesson is called decomposing numbers. I can triple click that, control K, and I'm going to tell it to go down to slide number 20. And it doesn't hurt before you push this out to kids to go through and just follow your links and make sure that they work. If you've put in all of these next slide and end of lesson buttons, then it shouldn't take you very long to just kind of go through this. It's also a good idea to have a friend or a co-teacher or somebody go through. And because we're doing this in Google Docs, you can actually all collaborate together. So let's say that here's my math lessons. Now let's say that I've had them write a response here to something. I'm just throwing this in here. Write a response below. I'm going to change that formatting so it's at the very top left. Okay, so I meant for this to be up here. What I love about the hyperlinks is if I take this and move it up to where I meant for it to be, because remember I want all of my ELA to be together. So maybe we want to write a response to this Wonderopolis article. All right, so now my decomposing numbers was supposed to be on slide 20, but now I've moved it to slide 21. But if I go back to the math section and I click on that, you'll notice that it actually updates it. And so that's why I encourage you to not do these math problems on slide 21. You just name it, you link them to slide 21, because then if you have to move some stuff around, it shouldn't mess you up. If you need any help putting all of this together, I am so happy to help you create this. You just saw how quickly I can go through and do it. However, I do not know your content, and I had a really hard time finding resources for the 10-day one. So if you want to find the resources and tell me what you want students to do each day or what you want their options to be, I do not at all mind coming in and helping you create this document. And it will grow and grow and grow, but students should just have to download this one document, and then you'll be able to see what they're working on, see what they've done, um, and then you can link them out to different resources. One other thing I want to say, and this is especially helpful for probably older students. I don't know that I would do this for maybe fourth grade and up. Anything else, I would try to keep it all in this one document. But I think fourth graders would be able to handle this. You could actually save your resources to a Google Drive folder and then have your students download that Google Drive folder. So what that means is if I wanted to record a video of me teaching decomposing numbers, or maybe I've gone to Discovery Ed and I found a really good video. So let's see, Discovery Education. If you are in K through 8, I believe we have Discovery Education as our science textbook, but they're also offering for free because of the COVID-19 shutdown. Anybody can go in and get access. I love Discovery Education because they give you so many good videos and they give you permission to download them. So I know for sure, because I used to teach it, that there is a magic school bus um, desert. It talks about different ways that animals and plants have adapted to live in the desert. All right, so let's see if it will actually. I'm going to click on videos because all I want to see are videos. Oh man, I can't find it in here. If I had more time, I would go through and find it. But let's say that I love this video right here. Make sure you preview it because that's always important. But if you know that it's good, and if it's in Discovery Ed, it should be good. You can click on it, click on the 3 dots, and you can download. Now again, if you do this, do low because the Chromebooks only have 16 gigabytes. And so I'm going to call this desert video. So now you can create a folder. So like I have a folder called eLearning Resources for Dabney. You would want it to be very clear. And in that folder, I have social studies, science, math, and ELA. So I want this to go in the science one. I can save all of my PDFs and I can upload any videos, whether they're videos that I downloaded or videos that I created. Maybe I use Screencastify or WeVideo and I recorded a video like I'm recording for you guys now. It is taking Google a little bit longer to upload those videos and process those videos because so many people are using video and sending it out remotely. So now that I have everything, all of my resources here, then let's go back here just so you can see an example. Sorry, we were almost done. All right, so I'm going to go down to my science and I'm going to say, let's see, enter. All right, so I'm going to say watch video about desert life and respond to the prompt. Now again, I'm not happy with the way this has been formatted, but I just want you to see how I would do this. So you could say go to files and go to files, eLearning for Dabney, and I called this let's see, science folder, and then I called it desert video to view offline. Okay, so now I have this down here. I can't link to it. Kids would have to do that from their Chromebook, from where they've downloaded your resources. But if I do, let's see, I do want students to be able to go straight to this. So I'm going to click the share button and I'm going to copy this link. And then I'm going to say, watch the video about desert life. If it's a YouTube video, you could even put it right in here. And I will say YouTube videos, it's illegal to download those. So I would be careful about using YouTube videos. But if it's something you created or something from a source that allows you to download, then this is how you might do this. Now, you could say read the article. Okay, so go to files, whatever, and then read the article. I put a lot of different things in here just so you could see. But like, so for social studies, I think I have PDFs. Oh no, I have a video that I made using Screencastify. For science, I have PDFs and videos. But in order to share this with your students, what you would do is go to that parent folder. So the parent folder is eLearning resources for Dabney. And please be specific, because if you teach high school, your kids are going to have 8 different teachers giving them things. So you want to make sure they know it's for ELA or for chemistry or whatever. But you would just right click on this folder and you would get that shareable link. And make sure that anyone in Anderson 2 can view. So if you give this link to your students, let's say that I'm going into Google Classroom, you would not want to put your, if you're doing what I've done, you have this one Google slide that has everything that students need. Let me come down here to one of my old classes. All right, so if I'm making a new assignment, I'm going to go to classwork, create assignment. All right, and so this might be 17-day e-learning lessons. All right, so I'm still going to want to add in from Google Drive the slideshow that I just created. And it should show me my recent ones here. Again, it's being slow because I'm trying to screencast this for you guys. I'm going to search for 10-day and see what pops up. Okay, so again, I would want to do the 17-day one, but this is the one that I've been changing. So I'm going to add that. Make sure that students get a copy. Make a copy for each student. So that is going to show up in their work. Now I can also add a link to my resources. Okay, so remember that I just came here and I right clicked and I said get shareable link and I copied that link. All right, so then I can say complete the lessons in the Google Slides presentation. You can access resources through the Google link as needed. So you can download and access resources through the Google link as needed. So now I have it where students can view this Google Drive folder, but it's going to assign them this. And I've just been testing it with some of my students. Poor Will. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and assign that. And so now what kids can do when kids follow this link and they have internet, which remember we would have kids come to school and download new content if we are going to extend. All they have to do is right click on this link right here and they can download this entire folder. And so it's going to download all of your resources, all of your videos, all of your PDFs, anything like that. So instead of taking screenshots, those of you that have older kids, instead of having to take screenshots and do all of that, you could just open up an article. So let me go back to Wonderopolis. And I'm just going to click on a random one. All right, so let's say that I like this one right here. I can come up and I can click the print button and I can save this through the print button. I can save it directly to Google Drive or I can save it to my computer and upload it to Drive. It's whatever is easy for you. But instead of taking screenshots, I can save it to Google Drive or I can save it as a PDF and upload it to Google Drive. And then whenever I tell students read this article, I would say read the article in your resource folder. Or I would say read the article by clicking here. If you do not have internet, then go to your resource folder, social studies, and then the name, Who Was the Pirate Queen, or whatever, lesson 1, lesson 2, whatever you want to name it. You just have to have a really good naming scheme. All right, guys, I know that this was a ton. I hope that it helps you. Just remember that I'm here for you to help you out however you need me. Just let me know. I'm happy to help you compile these resources and create your lessons. I'm also happy to help you find resources if you need to do that. Um, when it comes to your students, just think less is more. You don't want to pile on a bunch of work, especially if we're out for this prolonged period and they don't have somebody to help them and they don't have access to the internet. It's important that they read. It's important that they research. It's important that they show what they've learned. You can make PDFs, you can make lessons, you can make videos to kind of help with that. You'll be able to use Google Hangout Meets here pretty soon to connect with those kids that have internet. But this is uncharted territory. We've never done this before, and so just less is more. There are a ton of resources you can use, and I do encourage you to try some of these tools that you haven't used before because why not? This is a chance. We know that testing has now been canceled. This is a chance for you to just have fun and let your kids explore and create. Um, it doesn't have to be stressful, but don't try to take on too much. Okay. All right. Let me know how I can help you, and I'm here for you.